apparently something that Apple employees are apparently not enjoying are this idea of a mandated return to work for 3 days, which apparently the latest push by management to get people back into the office is like kind of said that they have to be in on a Tuesday and a Thursday with leaders in specific teams then deciding what the third day would be. Presumably because they want to make sure that not everyone comes in on a Wednesday, so that there's ultra long weekends or whatever. But it's interesting that Apple's experiencing this pushback because I guess maybe I think even Steve Jobs said this, that the whole point of the spaceship campus was, to encourage an environment where people could run into each other, exchange ideas, build on things, and that kind of requires in-person attendance at the campus, i.e., in the office. So if everyone's working from home, there's less likelihood of that type of interaction to happen. And it may be that Apple's going to have a bit of a interesting challenge in this regard because there seems to be a clear intent to want to get their staff back in, but they don't want to come back in because they've had it good working from home during the pandemic because they've found that they can do that.
Yeah, well, COVID's changed the world, hasn't it? And I remember us discussing, potential impacts of COVID around the social outcomes right at the start of COVID. And, any situation that lasts longer than 6 weeks breaks habits. And any situation which lasts a couple of years breeds new habits. And I think there's a bit of a theme running through today's topics, but one of those now is people deciding how they want to work. And if you work in a knowledge industry, in IT, or any of the tech companies, really, as I think as we've all experienced with video conferencing and connectivity through multiple media channels and personal channels, you know, you can limit the time that you need to be in the office and, obviously productivity as well. There are a lot of companies around the world grappling with how do you get people back in. I think everyone's given up on any idea that there will ever be a 5 day in the office week unless you actually face to face customer service or something like that. Um, yeah, it's very difficult. We've seen Facebook in recent weeks sort of, use the productivity carrot or stick. I'm not sure which one to try and get more from their workforce. And I think Apple's grappling with the same problem. If you've had 2 years working from home and you love it, well, maybe you could be convinced to come back in for two, but three might be a struggle. So I guess this is just something else we'll watch and evolve. And certainly for, I think, younger staff uh, and probably younger generations now who have entered the workforce and been in the workforce for under a decade, they have very strong views about this. They have a lot of confidence about expressing what they need, and maybe to some extent they're rebelling against the nature of work that the older generations have experienced. So good luck to everybody in this. I certainly think it's opening a new chapter and new opportunities.
Absolutely. One other quick thing that I did want to touch on this topic was because I've heard it in a couple of different places now, is this idea that if you don't have face to face interaction, you could have a work culture problem develop because you don't have the establishment of relationships effectively. Because, yes, you could do work by communicating through screens. That's not the issue. It's that there's an aspect to human interaction that requires in person the interaction to be in person in order to develop the culture, the positive work culture about feeling like you're connected to the rest of the organization and that sort of thing. And I've heard this in a couple of different places now that there's a concern about that, that it's inevitable that, if everyone's 100% working from home, the work culture could suffer in a way.
I don't disagree with that, but to me, increasingly the rest of our personal lives are being depersonalized. People, will text people, you know, in the next room rather than go and see them, or Zoom them, in the next building rather than go and see them. And that's in personal life. So why would you change in in your work life. I don't advocate for either scenario, by the way, but you know, I don't see how important it, yeah, well, it can be as important to employers as they like, but if people aren't doing it in their personal life, I don't see how you can convince them to do it at work. And I think that's where the actual battle is.